Big Sills! What a great weekend in football, storyline-wise. Good, bad, the ugly on how you coach. Performing expectations. Raising the bar. Your place in history, if you're Patrick Mahomes. And of course, the team that never, ever will deny us when it comes to dropping golden nuggets, your Philadelphia Eagles. It's incredible. 49ers, Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is now in his fourth Super Bowl, and he's 28 years old. And he is rapidly entering the stratosphere of Bradshaw, Montana, and Brady. You're now working your way into that conversation. By the way, I would make this comment to you too. Mahomes is widening the gap between him and everybody else in the league. He's widening the gap with his performance on the field. And something that Tone said, okay, I'm done betting against that guy. Just like you never bet against Brady at the end, I'm not betting again. You're now talking about the field versus him. It's the field versus Mahomes or Jordan or Brady. It's the field versus him. And I think it's remarkable. Plus, like I said, the Eagles hired new coordinators. We're going to hit on that here in a second. So may I start the show up with asking a simple question? I heard Rob Ellis bring up that it was time for Andy Reid to go in Philadelphia. How many people subscribe to that? It was just time. I heard Rob say it. It's a lot of people think that it was. How many people believe that it was the right time for both parties to separate? And Andy Reid and the Eagles, he was there 13 years. And it was just time. It just happens sometimes. Okay. It's just time to move on. 100%. It truly was when you look at how bad things were getting. Okay? He was here 14 years and no Super Bowl wins. We needed a breakup. Andy was different with the Eagles. I love that take. We are in the Mahomes era. Okay. And again, this is an observation more than a criticism. So you guys thought it was in the best interest for Andy Reid because you thought that his run in Philadelphia, as Tone said, sometimes things just happen and it was time. You didn't give Andy Reid enough patience to turn it around because what he's done in Kansas City, finding Mahomes. I mean, let's not be candid. Let's be candid here. He's a Texas Tech quarterback. I can't think of another Texas Tech quarterback outside of Billy Joe Tolliver that ever really played in the NFL that I can say was a significant guy in the history of the Red Raider program. It's not like that. That's a place that creates quarterbacks. So they found him with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So you had to say you found him. You developed him. You replaced Alex Smith, who wasn't horrible for you, and put that kid in there, right? What would Andy Reid have done with Carson Wentz? So you thought it was in the best interest not to let Andy Reid, because obviously he's never lost any of his fight to be a head coach in the league because he's better in Kansas City now. How come you didn't give him a chance to? It's a question. How come you didn't give him a chance to dig himself out of it? You guys are saying the same shit about Bill Belichick. Well, it's just time to move on. Bill Belichick, he was all about the quarterback there. Many people said the same thing about Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb. Are you sure it's always best to move on from these guys? And it's in the best interest of your organization to move on from these guys? And I give it just a little time for these legendary guys to dig themselves out of some issues? I mean, it was time, Sills. For what? Him to go to Kansas City and better his resume? We're not talking about a coach who ran out of gas. You guys thought he ran out of gas, did you not, in Philly? Did you not think he ran out of gas in Philly? Shit, people thought Tony Dungy ran out of gas in Tampa. Malcos, this is dumb when you're watching a guy now go to his 4th Super Bowl in 5 years and you fucking fired him. And you know what you're saying is, hey, it just happens. And you know what? It was time. For what? That guy to go to Kansas City and do a better job? Okay. Hey, if that's how you look at it, that it was just time, and okay. You fired a coach now who's going to his 4th Super Bowl in 5 years because you thought he ran out of juice in Philly. Don't freaking lie. You thought his time in Philly ran out of juice. Did you not? Here again, here's people denying that. Okay? Yeah. Tone goes, I can't roll with this take. No, I can't either, because I can't roll with the firing of Andy Reid. The stupidest thing on the planet. You fired that guy because you thought his time in Philly was over. Okay. I guess to Kansas City's advantage and to their prosperity of turning their franchise around. Andy Reid turned their franchise around. Oh, okay. Hey, that's how you really look at that in Philly. It was time. For what? For him to go and expand his resume in KC. Okay. Hey, did Andy want out? Oh, no, that's right. You fired him. Okay. That's how you look at that take. Is that always just time? For what? For him to go to Canton? Okay. Solid takes. That it was time. For what? For him to find Mahomes, and for him to find Mahomes to turn Mahomes into one of the greatest postseason quarterbacks in NFL history. Okay. I can't go and subscribe with the fact that you fired the guy. Hey, to each his own. Kansas City advantage. His circumstances are completely different in Philly. He controlled everything. You don't think he controls everything in Kansas City? His kid was on the payroll. In KC, he took a step back, focused on coaching. Maybe Andy got better at his job. That has to be a consideration. Sure. Mike Shanahan got better in Denver. Absolutely. But it was just time in Philly. Okay. Okay. All right. Interesting. Let's slide over to your coordinators now. What do you guys make of the hires? Kellen Moore, OC. By the way, welcome aboard, NovaCare. Appreciate it. What do you make of your hires? Kellen Moore, OC, and Vic Fangio, your defensive coordinators. What do you make of those two hires by the Eagles? And by the way, for the record, why didn't you do this last year? Why didn't you do this last year? Why didn't you hire quality people like this last year? What was your problem? What was the holdup? You were not prepared after the Super Bowl to have a list ready of quality people that you didn't do. You know what happened? You didn't work hard enough to replace them. Because this group here, whether you like them or not, it's not the point. You got to figure out if it's a fit. Okay? It really doesn't matter if you like the hires. You got to figure out if it fits. Okay? And these are the right guys. So let me ask you, what do you make of the hires? Fangio and Moore as your offensive coordinators. Joseph goes, not sure. Joseph, that's not a bad take. Okay, whether they're good or not. Quite frankly, I'm going to talk about both guys, and then we'll figure it out at the end here. Bad? Flexing. How do you know that? There's no games being played right now. You have no idea if it's a shitty hire. Sills, that's like saying your previous relationships shouldn't have worked out, us and Andy. Hey, I just asked you here, man. Sometimes in a relationship with your wife or your whatever, your significant other, you got bumps in the road. Either you stick with them or you don't. Don't like Kellen Moore. I think you know why. Jerry Jones. How do you know when a coach is a good coach working in the Dallas Cowboy organization? Do you know how bad it was going to hurt if the 49ers win the Super Bowl? This will be officially rock bottom, and last year will be fraudulent. No, it won't. We fire everybody, win or lose. Andy, Reid, Doug Peterson are showing you the results. I think that's more where I'm at, death row. That's kind of more where I'm at. You fire quality coaches and don't hire quality coaches is a problem. So, again, I mean, right. Okay? I mean, the coaches aren't here. That just shows you, too. The coaches in Philadelphia, as I've said since I've come on the air, talking mostly to Eagle fans, your coaches are non-significant. It doesn't matter how good you are or how bad you are. You can get this. Brian Johnson and Sean Desai being called bad coordinators and winning 11 games. Okay. Okay, yeah, all right. I guess, right? I'll show you a lot of guys out there and a lot of organizations that would take 11 wins to keep the coordinators in place. Not in Philly, though. Because Philly thinks they took a step back. Well, your roster took a step back. And your experience in coaching took a step back. Both the responsibilities of the GM. Dallas had a top 5 offense under Moore. Okay. Well, let me ask you something here. I think people are overreacting. He was scapegoated in Dallas. Moore knows how to put his players in position to win. It's funny you should say that. I'm going to get to it here in a minute. My first question to you would be this when it comes to Kellen Moore. Are they hiring Kellen Moore for Jalen Hurts to be what the Eagles want him to look like? Or are you hiring Kellen Moore for Jalen Hurts' strengths and accentuating who he is? What kind of coordinator is he? Has he been hired because he believes in throwing the ball a lot? They kind of run away from the run game a lot. Gee, kind of sounds familiar. Huh. Are you hiring Kellen Moore because you want Jalen Hurts to look more like a better version of last year? Or are you hiring Kellen Moore because he fits Jalen Hurts' skill set? That's how you figure out whether or not it's a good hire. I don't think they asked Jalen Hurts anything about this. I think they made this decision completely by themselves. Now, here's where maybe Hurts heard the Kellen Moore scenario. Why? He was out in the Chargers, and it's a Rivers type of offense, which means it's a Frank Reich's offense. More offense is air raid. The run game will suffer. Kind of sounds like last year. So let's get to breaking down in my takes on Oh, no, I'll get to this other one here. You want to do Vic Fangio first, or do you want to do Kellen Moore first? Cody goes, why not just get Frank Reich? 35 million reasons why. Frank's not going to jeopardize his money. They asked him first. Let's do Kellen Moore, since everyone wants that. He's 35 years of age, former Boise State quarterback. Actually was offered the Boise State head coaching job about 3 years ago. He's been a coordinator 4 years in Dallas, 5 years total. His teams that he's been the offensive coordinator for are 43-40. Combined records of teams that he's been on, just a tick above 500 on the teams. So is he a coordinator that likes to put big numbers up? Or is he a coordinator that likes to try to win ball games? So, I mean, he's been on average football teams. His 5 years as coordinator. Again, a lot plays into that. Poor defense, guys being injured. Like when you see a guy like Kevin Stefanski or Kyle Shanahan still winning ball games, getting around losing quarterbacks, and you still see them getting around it and winning games, that's when you know you're worth your salt when it comes to being a coordinator, that your system could carry people along with you to victories. So again, hey, I'm telling a story here. If you want to not go along with the story, this is just what he's been doing. Am I looking at, and I just said, the defensive side of the ball, the roster, but there's certain coordinators that win games, and there's certain coordinators like Brian Johnson who put up numbers and career stats for your Eagles last year. Get this. Brian Johnson had career stats on every single one of his football players last year and was fired. Every single offensive football player that you had that was of significance, outside of Dallas Goedert getting injured, had a career year. And he was fired. So he's going to upgrade that, right? He's upgrading that. Okay. Chargers 21st in points and 18th in total yards. Decimated team with injuries. A lot of that. Plus the head coach was a train wreck. He was by far the worst NFL head coach in the league last year, Brandon Staley. Very seldom do I ever say that a coach should be fired after a win, but he was one of them. Okay? It was terrible. He should have been fired after the Minnesota game they won in Minnesota. Sirianni said something here that I thought that was significant and I think is wrong. Kellen fits the skill set of Jalen Hurts. I'm going to debate that he doesn't. He believes in a lot of pre-snap motion. He relies a lot on the pass. The Chargers were 431 in design runs, 632 in dropbacks. Okay? How I look at him, what quarterback has he ever developed? Dak? Shit, when he left Dallas, Dak got better. And Herbert got worse. I mean, that's a fact. Herbert got worse. Dak got better. Dak was an MVP candidate. He leaves, McCarthy takes over. He's better. I don't think there's a ton of talent on Dallas. Tony Pollard's a fine ball player. CeeDee's good. Then what? We're not talking about a ton of superstar talent on that team offensively. They got a bunch of nice other guys, Michael Gallup and some of the other, but they're not Devontae Smith. Just saying, what quarterback has he developed? Okay? What quarterback? Now, let me ask you this one. Let's do this. You think Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts have the same skill set? You think Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts have the same skill set? Who else has he worked with that has Jalen Hurts' skill set that Nick says they match up? It's a fucking lie. Name me one guy. Name me one guy that has the skill set of Jalen Hurts that he's worked with. How do you know that's a good fit when he's never worked with that skill set of a quarterback that's a dual threat? Maybe I missed it. Is there somebody he's worked with? Herbert runs the ball 178 times, 150 times a year. He does. He runs the ball that much. Justin Herbert runs the ball 180 times a year like Jalen. I must have missed that. I must have missed that he runs the ball like Jalen does. So wait a minute. Justin Herbert's an RPO quarterback? What dual threat guy has he ever worked with? Herbert can run, so can Roethlisberger. Dude, that guy's not a dual threat quarterback. Moore is here as a possible in-house replacement if Sirianni fails again. Kellen Moore is a replacement for Sirianni to be the head coach? I mean, so when you say he's a good fit, how? He's dealt with drop-back quarterbacks. He doesn't. Would we say this? Dak and Jalen are two different people when it comes to playing the position of quarterback? Wouldn't you say that they're different in their approach of the game? Dak Prescott doesn't run like Jalen does. He ran a little more this year. But you wouldn't say Dak and Jalen play the game the same. Just like I wouldn't say Jalen and Mahomes play the same. I don't think they're the same guy. Right, they're completely different. So how does Kellen Moore fit Jalen when the only guys he's worked on and worked with have been drop-back quarterbacks in the last 5 years? I'm trying to hey, Duel goes, Jalen's not a drop-back quarterback. Okay, well then that's my point. They want Jalen to be something like this last season, just with less turnovers. So you're going to see more of the same on what they want him to look like, more than what best fits him. That's my takeaway. Am I wrong? Now, look, I don't know if it works. You can't sit here on January 29th and go, it's a shitty hire. You don't know that. Sometimes guys plug in and it works. And you go, damn, I can't believe that. So you gotta kind of look, I'm not really ripping it. I'm asking at the outset, did they hire the right guy for him? And what's their motive? And what's their angle? And what do they want to accomplish out of this? Nobody asked the question, what's Kellen Moore going to try to accomplish with his version of Jalen Hurts? Because it's not going to be Hurts going back to 22. This is going to be what they want him to expand on and what he did this year without the turnovers. Is that fair? It's just an observation. No, Eric, they're not coaching to Hurts' style. That's not what they're doing. They're coaching to what they want him to look like. Am I wrong? Did I misread that? You can't, wait a minute, crazy. You can't say you hate to, you don't know it. Hey, watch this. Maybe Kellen does know how to work with dual threat guys. I don't know that. I've never seen him work with them. But what I don't like Nick Sirianni saying is Kellen Moore fits his skill set. Where? Show me an example of that. Give me a sample size where you worked with a guy who's a dual threat dude. And in his 5 years, football teams have won just 3 games, tick above 500. His offenses have been great, Sills. That's not what I'm after. I saw offenses last year in Philadelphia that put up points, and guys had career years. It resulted in losing 6 of 7. Again, I'm not ripping the hire. I'm asking at the outset of the hire, what was your sample size that you came to the Kellen Moore decision? And if Nick is telling me because Kellen fits his skill set, give me an example of that. Give me an example of it. Can I see? Hey, get this. And if you find me an example of that, I'll go, oh, okay, I remember that now. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that guy had a great year with him. Okay, I think personally the Philadelphia Eagles want Jalen Hurts to be exactly like he was in 23 without the turnovers. You're going to see less RPOs and less of a running game in 23. That's my prediction. That's the prediction. Sorry, Seals, I can't put any faith in ex-Cowboys. Now, when you talk like that, Marshall, the Cowboy thing's not a factor. That's really the issue. A lot of fans, you can joke about it, but any affiliation with that, that's big Marshall. So you're saying you wouldn't want Michael Irvin in his prime on the Eagles. That stuff doesn't, as a matter of fact, okay, Kellen Moore being on the Eagles, I think helps you also when it comes to the fact that he was in Dallas for 4 years and knows how that operation works offensively. Along with Mike McCarthy, he worked with Mike. I think that's somewhat an advantage, having a guy like that has been an NFC offensive coordinator. I think that helps. Does he pull some of the assistant coaches off of the Dallas Cowboys that potentially could help Hurts and weaken the Cowboys and Dak? I don't have a problem with that either. You guys come at it from a different angle. If you can weaken your opponent by getting one of their top flight guys, like you won't want Michael Parsons on your team because he played in Dallas. It weakens Dallas, strengthens you in the NFC, and gives you a better player on your football team. But I don't want him because he wore the Dallas Cowboy helmet. It's ridiculous. It's like talking to 4-year-olds when you say that kind of shit. That has no bearing in winning. They want Jalen to look like McNabb. I think they want Jalen to be more like Russell Wilson. And I'm talking Seattle Russell Wilson. That's what I think they want him to look like. I think they want him to run when he has to, but I think they want him to be still that big play guy. And in my opinion, okay, here's what you get with Kellen Moore. You get a lot of jet motion. You get a lot of motion and pre-snap motion. You get a quarterback that's not going to be in the shotgun. He's going to be under center more, okay? All of that is a new trait that he has to also do. Jalen Hurts has played the majority of his career in shotgun. Bama, Oklahoma, what he's done the first couple of years in Philly, I would say 70% of the time he's in shotgun. Okay, well, what are you going to do? You're going to lower that number to 50, 40? What? That's a skill set he has to get used to. Dropping back, his feet, his legs, his steps. That's more to work on. Okay? Do you understand when you put a guy in shotgun while you're doing that? That they don't think he has really great feet getting back to his spot. That's why you put most guys in shotgun. Or slow feet. Why do you think Peyton Manning played a lot of the time in shotgun because he's got poor feet. He's good in the pocket. Tap, 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 throw. Tap, tap, tap. But you didn't see him dropping back a shitload of times because he fall down early in his career a lot. Okay? Get back to your step. See, listen, when you have a guy in shotgun, what does that do? You can process the information quicker. When you have to drop back, I think that I've told many of you this before. My conversation with Bill Walsh back in the day, when Bill was out in the West Coast and I was doing radio on KMBR, and I used to go, Bill, man, Montana had such a great arm. He goes, yeah, his feet were better. And it was the first time I had heard that. And he goes like this, yeah, the great quarterbacks have great feet. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, the guys that can get back quicker in their stop and their drop can process the information quicker. The guys that meander and drift and throw off their back foot, those are the guys traditionally have high interceptions. Throw the ball high, get a lot of pressure, are not as stout in the pocket, don't know the front door, back door, side door, don't know any of that on how to escape the pocket. So you have to really know in your feet and be very comfortable in your feet for you to understand when you go to a 7-step guy. That's a hard skill set. You know what made Drew Brees so great? Do you know what he developed? Brees is a shorter guy. So you know what him and Sean Payton came up with? Because he couldn't see over his O-line. Instead of taking a 7-step, Brees went to 9. And he went to 9, he could see the field more. And so it gave him more of an opportunity. But when you do a 9-step drop, bro, you better know exactly in pre-snap reads and where you're going with the ball, what you're doing with the ball. Because if you don't, that's a big time. I mean, you're running 10 yards backwards every play. You got to have a great mind for the game if you're going to do that shit. So what that's going to do is cut down on Jalen Hurts' pre-snap reads when it comes to where he's going to go with the ball if the guy's not open, okay? Now he's going to go to a 7-step, not putting him in shotgun. That's another whole skill set that he's going to have to work on this offseason because he doesn't really play in that position. That's something else. You think that's easy, right? That's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be a great quarterback like Mahomes. Okay? He's got a lot of work to do with Kellen Moore. There's a lot of work to do. He's got to work on his feet, his drops, his reads, his pre-snap, putting people in motion. Then he's got to figure out progression in reading. All of that is going to be something they haven't done here in 3 years. And last year, they kind of half-assed it, tried it. That's why he had high turnovers. You know, it still blows my mind. Why didn't you do this last year for him? Think about where he'd be now. You'd have Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was on the market before the Chargers hired him, and you hired Brian Johnson. Shit, you interviewed Kellen Moore also for the head coaching job. Who knows? Maybe if Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator and the Eagles had done well, and the way the thing kind of fell apart at the end, maybe the Eagles would have hired Kellen Moore right now, and Kellen Moore would be the head football coach of the Eagles. The whole process is a year late. It just doesn't really kind of make sense here. So last year you thought, I'm not going to hire anybody with any kind of success, but now I'm going to. What changed? Oh, I know, losing. Okay. I don't get it. This has been a very confusing offseason so far to the start to the Eagles and how they're getting to places. And again, Sirianni's lying again. Until somebody shows me that Kellen Moore has had success with dual threat quarterbacks and can give me an example and a sample size of it, I'm going to go like this. He's worked with Dak and Justin Herbert in 4 years and a bunch of guys who had to come in when they got hurt. And they were 43-40 teams that he was on as a unit. Put up a lot of points. Brian Johnson put up a lot of points and put up a lot of offense. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad hire. I just want to see, okay, I don't see the tie-in. I see an organization that hired a guy that wants Jalen Hurts to look the way they want him to look. Instead of hiring a coordinator to fit the skill set of the player. Kellen Moore's skill set does not fit, no matter what that clown coach says, does not fit that unless you show me an example of it. Show me an example of that. Just show me an example and I'll go, oh, yeah. Okay? Guy goes like this here. Sirianni said he wanted someone who brings different ideas to the table. Okay. I don't know if he will or won't, so I don't know that. All I know is that got better, Herbert got worse. Okay? You know, you can say all these things about his offense, him. The results are people got better and worse with him in the building. Well, Sills, is that his fault? I don't know. Dak looked awful good under McCarthy. He looked better under McCarthy. And I thought Herbert looked his worst in Los Angeles under Moore. You can dispute that all you want, but I just thought he did. Let me get over to Vic Fangio. You know what these hires look like to me? So, well, I'll put that at the end here, and I'll give you my take at the end. So, once again, you guys like the Kellen Moore hire. Once again, I'm Switzerland. I'll wait and see how this thing looks. Because here on January 29th, I can't give you an assessment if it's a good hire or not until I see him call a game. Okay? All I know is that the last two stops, he's been terrible. The Dallas stop wasn't terrible. Okay? They weren't terrible the last two stops. Well, the last year in Dallas, but the first year in Los Angeles with Herbert. I'm not counting after Herbert. When Herbert left. I'm talking about when he was the coordinator with him. Okay? So, name me one quarterback he's ever worked with who has the same skill set as Jalen Hurts. Name me one. I'll tell you what, some of you in here are defending the hire, but when Nick Sirianni says he has the same, he knows how to work with the skill set, and he's worked with skill set of Jalen Hurts. Who? Who? Name me one. You know, it's one thing when you go Shane Steichen. How many people in here believe that the Colts, once they hired Shane Steichen, were going to draft Anthony Richardson? I did. I thought that was a slam dunk. They were hiring Shane Steichen and getting Anthony Richardson. I mean, I didn't think that was going to be a debate because he looks the skill set of what Hurts did when he was at Florida. And you were like, well, Shane's going to be an RPO guy. And he is an RPO guy. And sure enough, man, Anthony Richardson, I thought he looked pretty damn good. I thought he looked better as a Colt than he did as a Gator. And you were like, that's a matchup. Or when you're watching Zach Taylor and how he has jet motion and all the motions for Burrow, and you were like, yeah, man, that makes sense. Okay? How about the way that Joe Brady handled Josh Allen? It wasn't about explosive plays. It was about reeling him in. And that's what Brady did. And by the way, now the interim tag's been taken off him because they see he's the best fit for him because he reeled him in. Again, this may pan out. You cannot say here on January 29th, it's a shit. That's not the point. My point is it a good marriage? Are they compatible? That's all I'm asking. Better catch, Ayuk or Lamar catching his own ball? We're going to talk about the conference title games. Whew, man. Yeah. That Baltimore Ravens team played very undisciplined football. The two teams that played undisciplined were the Lions in the second half and the Ravens the entire football game. I thought that team, as the game went on, the Ravens came unglued. And pressure got to them, and they both choked. Both teams choked. Hey, man. Okay? You got to be better in that moments. They freaking choked. I'll say it to you, Reid, as we go on, not here to Vic Fangio, but hey, Dan Campbell, this is just a note for you. Don't coach a football team, especially an NFC championship game, like a player would. You got to coach them games like a coach would. You're on the road with a better team. Take your points and get out of Dodge. You could have put that team to sleep. And he went for the throat and the knockout. And you know what happens? It's like the Michael Moore-George Foreman fight. Moore kept going for the knockout, trying to knock the former heavyweight champion Foreman out. You know what he did? Played around too long, got knocked out himself. I thought of the Moore fight with Foreman. The guy won 9 rounds, but he kept trying to get the knockout of Foreman, the greatest knockout artist of all time. He was 44. He said, hey, this would be a nice pelt on my belt if I could knock out George Foreman. Kept doing it. Foreman hits him in the 10th, knocks him out, game over. That's exactly what the 49ers did to the Lions. You kept making them hang in there by not putting them away. And they knocked you out. I mean, Vic Fangio, 65 years old. I don't give a shit about that age. I would say this to you. Don't expect the blitz rate to increase. It won't. He believes in getting – listen what I'm going to tell you here. Tell me if this sounds eerily the same. Watch this. I'm going to take Vic Fangio's name out of this. Then I'm going to go back and do Kellen Moore. And you tell me what they've hired. Don't expect a blitz rate increase because it's not going to happen. He believes in fronts and pressure with the front. He's a contain and control kind of coordinator. Don't give up the big play. Keep him underneath. Okay. He's a bend but don't break guy. Okay. He believes in trying to get your teams to dink and dunk. That's good if you have the personnel to do that. You have to have the corners and linebackers to do that. If you're going to make people try to turn them into dink and dunk people and keep them under the sticks. Do you have the personnel for that? I don't know. Howie seems to think so. We heard that in the press conference last week. You have to have cornerbacks. And he believes in balance at all levels. D-line, linebackers, and secondary. Well, you really don't have any of that except a decent front. Your linebackers are horseshit, and your secondary is horseshit. So you've got to have massive player development and upgrades in those positions, and financially you don't have it. So it's going to be interesting to see. But again, this sounds exactly like the shit they've been doing for 3 years. Kellen Moore. Guy believes in passing the ball. They get away from running the ball. He's a skill set for a 7-step drop quarterback, not a dual threat guy. Okay. I don't think they want Jalen to be a dual threat guy. It's kind of what they want and what they did last year, just with more experience. Am I wrong? Don't they look like the same people that you had last year with more experience? Am I wrong? He doesn't believe in blitzing. You're not going to see a high volume of blitzing with Vic Fangio. That's not going to happen. So if you thought you were getting a guy who was going to be aggressive, he's going to be as aggressive as the last two guys. Nothing's changed, just more experienced. Okay? Offensively, they're going to throw the ball more than run. That's who he is. He's a drop back skill set offensive coordinator. He's never worked with a dual threat guy because that's what they want Hurts to look like. That's who you've hired. Okay. We'll see if those all plug in. Get this. Eagles may have hired the two best coordinators they could ever thought of. On January 29th, I don't know that. All I'm saying one more time is we'll see. To me, they hired a coordinator they wanted 2 years ago in Vic Fangio. Okay. And they wanted to continue Jonathan Gannon stuff. So you brought basically Jonathan Gannon's dad in to coach the defense. And on the other side, we want Jalen Hurts to look like 2023 without the picks. Okay. That's their jobs. Overall, what do I think of it? I think they got some challenges because I don't think Jalen Hurts is that guy. I just do not. He has not proven to me at all that he's a drop-back quarterback in this league of any significance. I think he is a dual-threat guy who is of significance. And I would make a point to you of this. The one thing that I saw in that championship game that made me give Jalen a lot more love when it came to the comparisons, he's not near the player that Lamar is. But you know what he is? He's a better decision-maker in games. And that'll carry you further. Like Brady's decision-making in games carries him further than Aaron Rodgers. And that's what makes Brady the better quarterback. You can't always tie athleticism into a player's evaluation. You got to first tie this in. Can he play the quarterback position? Then you add what kind of arm does he have? Can he read defenses? Does he move around well in the pocket? Okay? They were running his defense. Hello. Right, you hired the same guy. No. You didn't upgrade. You upgraded in experience, Prince. Correct. Wasn't like you hired anything different. You're hiring the same defense that you just came out of last year. You won't see any difference. Is that going to be good enough to turn it around with the personnel you have? Okay. I don't think it is. Your defense was horrific last year. But magically, Vic Fangio, who's going to come in and run the same defense, is going to make that defense better? Let's see it. Let's see it. I think they'll improve in situational play calling. But I still think you have shitty personnel at many positions on defense. See, I think it's more of a personnel issue over there than it is coaching. Okay? And the indecision of Sirianni going from Desai to Patricia was a disaster on Nick's point. Nick basically blew up his own car by a poor move. Yeah, no, you upgraded experience. That's all you did. You're not getting anything different on defense. So, is that good enough to turn it around? We'll see. Am I wrong? Do you see something different with the Fangio hire? Well, Dan, he's the architect. They ran his defense. You mean that defense you just had last year? So the play caller's going to make. I'm not panicking. You upgraded experience. Yes. You didn't upgrade scheme. Are you going to drop Hassan Reddick in coverage again? What's he going to do different in the same system, in the same defense that you ran last year? He's not going to drop him? I hope not. Okay. Hey, and with Kellen Moore, you're going to run the ball less. Not a ton less. But Jalen is, they don't want Jalen to be a dual threat guy. The hiring of Kellen Moore tells you that. He's not. Don't never believe anything that head coach says, because he's a bull-faced liar. He doesn't have the skill set that Jalen has. He's never coached it in 5 years. Now he's saying that he's got the same skill set as I mean, you tell me, you think he looks like Dak and Justin Herbert? You'd be a dope to believe that. He does. Yeah, he does. He does because you want it to be. He does because you want it to be. I hear players in Miami didn't like Fangio. I think that's an asset, not a problem. I don't give a shit if they like the coach because he's old school, made them practice hard. I actually like that. Mejia, I love that. Those players need to get their ass kicked. Played like shit, 6-7 down the stretch. You were more the 6-7 team down the stretch than you were the 10-1 team. We all know that. Okay? You were the 1-6 team. You weren't the 10-1 team. I hope I'm wrong. Schedule seems easier, but shouldn't be shocked if Philly wins 8 games next season off pure talent. You won 11 games this year off of pure talent. Wasn't surely the coaching you had in the building. Okay? Vic probably demands respect rather than loved. Well, I'd rather have the respect than being loved if I'm a coach. Okay? Would you rather be loved or feared? I mean, I'll take the fear. It lasts longer. Love's fleeting. I'll take the fear. Okay? I mean, so thank you very much, Wiz. Absolutely reference. So let me ask you something here. By the way, today on the program at 3:30, our friend Tone will join us. Gary Cobb, 4:30. Derek Gunn. D. Gunn's going to join us at 5:30 Eastern. And we'll get his take on the coordinator. Once again, I want it to be known and clear. I'm Switzerland. My objective today was to figure, are they fits? And I'm ahead of it here by saying, okay, how did you come to the conclusion? The Fangio hire makes sense. The Vic Fangio hire makes complete sense because you're doing the same shit that you've done the last 3 years. Nothing's different. You just got experience more. And you hired more experience. And again, I go back to the question, why didn't you hire more experience last year? Why did you go from one extreme to the other in 3 years? 3 completely extreme hires and coordinators. It's just really weird how you went last year from complete inexperience to this year to experience. And experience in spades. How'd you get there? How'd you get there? Okay? Like I said, I don't know on January 29th how this is going to look. Okay? I just know, does it fit? Seems to be a weird marriage. How's that? Is that fair? Especially with the coordinator on offense. You're still trying to make Jalen into something he's not. So you're not deviating off that. Sills, I saw Kellen Moore is expected to be hired as the Eagles OC. If I'm honest, I hate it. Should I not? I don't know if you should hate it yet. Because you know what Kellen Moore can maybe do? Who knows? Kellen Moore could be such a savant offensive coordinator that he goes to the skill set of Hurts. You know, you can say you're going to do that, but you've never done that in games. He doesn't call RPOs like that. He's never worked with an RPO quarterback like that in the NFL. So when he says that, is he doing that because he thinks he can? Or is he doing that because the organization told him that's not where we're going? He was hired for a reason, because the organization has a vision of Hurts, not who Hurts is. We saw that all 22, did you not? How many times would we sit here on a Monday, or we would sit here last year going like this? Why are they doing that? Because that's what they want Hurts to look like. See, the way they look at it, they probably think they took 2 steps backwards to take 3 steps forward now by hiring Kellen Moore. That's where they are. That's why they don't believe they did anything wrong except the hiring of the coordinators, and the personnel is fine. Okay? Everybody had a great year last year, numbers-wise. What are you trying to accomplish this year? Less turnovers? Fair enough. That'll win you more games. Was Dak a good passer first 3 years? Dak and Jalen Hurts are not the same quarterback. They're not the same guy. They're completely 2 different dudes. I think Dak is more like Donovan. If I had to make a comparison, Donovan McNabb or Jalen Hurts to Dak, to me, Dak looks more like Donovan. You know what I'm saying? I think Devontae and are going to have a monster season next year under Moore. They will run every route. Now, I will give you this. I think that he's probably going to be more of a guy who's going to be more in the route design campaign. And that could be also one of the reasons why he got the job, is because he knows how to create them passing routes. I thought under him, Dallas did some really good things in their passing routes. So that's an advantage. That's an upgrade. We need stability with coaching for Jalen's sake. Remember something too, Brian, when you're a successful football team and you have young coordinators and you don't have a head football coach, it's a play caller, you're always going to be battling that. The problem with Nick and the Eagles is that Nick failed as a play caller. You're always going to be in that position. That's something the organization is going to have to always deal with. Kellen Moore will get a job at the college level or at the NFL level next year if Jalen does well. And you'll be back again because your head coach is not a play caller. And when he's been asked to play call in Philly, he's bombed twice. They know that now. See, they probably thought last year, Nick working with Shane and those two working together, how well Jalen played, that they relied a little more on Nick being part of what made Jalen great in 21 or 22. And then when they realized that he didn't, then they knew they were in a problem with Brian Johnson and Nick running the offense. They gave Nick more credit for the 22 season and the success of Jalen than they thought, when they realized that after the season, he's still that guy. He's still 2-5, Nick. He's still 2-5. Okay? He coached the team like he was. Get this. When he was in charge of the moments that they needed, he was 2-5 and 1-6. I don't know. Okay? You gave a first-round pick for AJ. You're delusional if you think he should be elsewhere. Yeah, get this. See, Broden, how dumb that take is? You wouldn't trade A.J. Brown, and yet the Kansas City Chiefs are in the Super Bowl for the 4th time in 5 years. And they're in the Super Bowl 2 years in a row without Tyreek Hill. That shows you how dumbass of a take Broad is with his. Oh, we're not trading A.J. Kansas City Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill. They're going to their second consecutive Super Bowl without him because they improved their defense using the money they didn't have to pay for him. But you wouldn't do it. That's how dumb you are. You don't know anything about roster building. You don't think anything about integrity of a roster. All you see is 1,700 yards and a guy with big numbers that don't give you shit. Hey, let me ask you this. Did a wide receiver in Kansas City have more than 800 yards this year? Did a wide receiver have anybody with 800 yards on the team? And by the way, Mahomes is not going to win the MVP this year. The guy in Baltimore is. His second. You know what Mahomes is starting to look? You know what Lamar's starting to remind me of a little? Hey, James Harden. Lamar Jackson. Starting to see that shit a little bit. See a guy with big regular season numbers, MVPs. I get you in the postseason. All of a sudden, our hands and our, we get a little wobbly in there. Lamar Jackson, a little bit of James Harden in the postseason. Wow. Right? A little bit of wobbling in there. I would never trade AJ. Kansas City trades AJ. Well, but again, you got to believe that your boy Hurts is the guy. Rice had 938. I'm shocked. That's a good number, man. Next closest was 460, and Kelsey had 984, but he's a tight end. Hey, that Rice had 968. That's great. I didn't think he had that many. They don't have a. Hey, wait a minute. Kansas City doesn't have 2,000-yard receivers. And what happened? Rice is a rookie as well. I like that. That's nice. Received Rice was 62-yard shy. Okay, that's great. I didn't know that. That's pretty good. He didn't get 1,000 yards, so he had 50 yards a game or 59 yards a game. That's good for a rookie, 59 yards a game. Their top receiver in Kansas City, their top wide receiver, not tight end, wide receiver, had 59 yards a game. Damn good. Mahomes didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher or receiver. And let's take a look at this even more so. How much money are they spending on those wideouts? He has a rookie guy on a rookie deal. What round was Rice drafted in? Just curious. So they're spending no money at the wideout position. Pacheco was like a 6th-round draft choice. They have no money being spent there. They have money spent at tight end and Mahomes. I mean, 2nd round for Rice. So you got a 2nd-round receiver, no first-rounders. In Philly, you have $20 million plus and a 1st-rounder, and you don't have any of that in KC. They spend no money, and they're in their 2nd Super Bowl. You must not believe in Hurts. Seals, I get the sentiment about trading AJ to retool defense. Problem is, I don't trust. Okay, hey, perfectly said. Because look, hey man, I have to do this to you. Okay, I have to. Man, that Kyle Hamilton, shit! What a good football player. Man, that guy was everywhere. They only gave up 17 points to Kansas City, too, in the AFC title game, the Ravens. Wasn't like they sucked. Man, that Kyle Hamilton. What was he drafted, 22? In the 22 draft, he was drafted what? 14th. Damn, Eagles could have had him. Damn. Wait a minute. You mean the Eagles could have had the kid I wanted you to draft, and all you guys thought he was a schwimp? Trent McDuffie? He was drafted number 21? And Kansas City's got him playing corner on a rookie deal? Damn, that guy's good. Damn. This is in the same 22 draft? Yes. Wait a minute. Even that Galifianakis kid, he was drafted 30th. He plays for Kansas City. Damn. In 2023, between 9 receivers, the Chiefs spent $20.2 million against the cap. Between 6 receivers, and Eagles spent $19.5 against the cap in 23. Okay? Between 6 receivers, it was 6 with the Eagles. They spent $19.5. Kansas City had 9 receivers, and they spent 20. Damn! Wait a minute. So in the 2022 draft, Howie could have had Kyle Hamilton, safety, with the 14th pick to Baltimore. Could have had Trent McDuffie, KC cornerback, number 21. Or that Galifianakis kid, edge rusher, Kansas City at the 30th pick. Who'd he take? Oh, that's right. He took the Pillsbury Doughboy. I forgot. He took Jordan Davis. Damn! So to your point, do I think Howie could make them? I don't know. It's a good take. It's a good take. You're right. Sills, you trade him away. Is he going to make the right pick, though? Yeah. Yeah. Every one of those guys that he passed on was a Pro Bowler, too, except the edge rusher. And around rookie deals, right? Please, Jesus. Man, wow. Come on now. No. Hey, Ray, come on is right. Come on, Howie. Yes, sir, baby. Oh, we got a really good one coming up here. Oh, my God. This one here. By the way, take a look at the conference championship games here, too. Shitty coaching versus good coaching was highly on display. I got a question about them bringing back Nick. Okay? Kansas City has 2 excellent coaches on both offense and defensive sides. I understand your point, but the players got us that 10-1 record. No, those players that you have now got you a 1-7 record, because that's who you were. I like the glass half filled there, though, Prince. It's all good, kid. Hey, there was really kind of a statement that was made that nobody in Philly refused to address it. And I did some research on it, and I actually asked a guy if it was true about Nick Sirianni. I want to hit on it. Hey, don't forget, the Hooter calendars are out. And make no mistake about it, the 2024 Hooter calendar is out. There's $100 in coupons inside the calendars. If you don't want to go into any of the locations, do me a favor, go to HootersToGo.com, NortheastHooters.com. That's NortheastHooters.com. Lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 3. Boneless wings, happy hour Monday through Friday, 4 to 6, 6 items, $6. That's NortheastHooters.com. NortheastHooters.com. When you roll in, do me a favor, tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the